Hey guys, how you doing? I'm not gonna sugarcoat it and lie to you guys about it. 2024 has just been an awful year, hasn't it? Not only throughout the world in general, but also in my personal life. The amount of chaotic stuff that's been going on in the world throughout 2024 caused so much stress, anxiety, and depression on me that it was difficult for me to focus on my work outside of Caleb Plays and my fanfiction, which is why the Danville Discussion podcast has been so ridiculously inactive this year. I fell so far behind, in fact, that I only ended up reviewing 2 Hamster and Gretel episodes in 2024 in terms of major episodes. Not even an actual Phineas and Ferb review, which is just ludicrous. In addition, I've been working on a newer and more professional version of my signature uniform that you see in my current intro banner and profile pics. I've been pretty busy with some art, as well as my Phineas and Ferb fanfiction, The Battle of the Tri-Kingdom Area. I've even been watching a ton of movies and shows according to plan, like the early seasons of SpongeBob and the entirety of Hysteria. And one of the biggest contributing factors to why I released this episode later than I wanted, the 2024 election, in which apparently no actual American can have nice things because America's Hitler himself has been voted back in office to terrorize the U.S. once more, and none of his supporters can catch a break, and that election really drained every ounce of energy from my system. Sorry for that rant. But in spite of all that, I have been re-watching Phineas and Ferb to be ready for when the revival comes out, and I also watched all of Hamster and Gretel Season 1 in preparation for Season 2, and I'm hoping I can make things up for all that hectic stuff in 2025. I am still planning to finish the Season 1 reviews of Hamster and Gretel and do more Phineas and Ferb reviews with the rest of Season 1 as part of my New Year's resolution, in which I want to release episodes way more frequently in 2025, maybe even releasing one every week, along with more Caleb reviews and some video essays. Wow, a new episode of the Danville Discussion every week. Won't that be a novel concept? Will it actually happen? We'll see about that. And now, please enjoy this episode.
And now, our feature presentation.
Today, on a Hamster and Gretel episode of the Danville Discussion.
Viva the Vegas!
It's Las Vegas, not the Vegas, Mom.
Las means that. Don't tell me how to speak Spanish in English. Okay, babies. As discussed, you know we love you more than anything. You are the center of our mundo, a reason for living.
We know the vacation protocol. You pretend you don't have children for an afternoon, and we get to do anything we want.
As long as it's legal and under $40.
Meet us for dinner at the Big Fish Bonanza all-you-can-eat buffet.
And remember, niños, what happens in the Vegas does not go to the other places.
Hello everybody, and welcome to the Danville Discussion, a podcast about all things related to Phineas and Ferb and beyond. I'm your host, Caleb Dirksen, and some of you may know me from my YouTube channel of the same name, the one and only place for some web series related to animation such as Caleb Reviews. If this is your first time listening, well, let me just say, first of all, welcome to you all, and also, let me explain to you a little bit about what this is all about. This is a podcast where I talk all about shows set in the Dan Povenmire and or Jeff Swampy Marsh universe, also known as the Dwampyverse. But specifically, I talk about each episode of either Phineas and Ferb or Hamster and Gretel, and go through all the cultural or in-universe references, fun facts, and anything else that I might find, and then finally I will end things off by giving each episode a roller coaster rating. So for this episode, I'm going to talk about episode 10 of Hamster and Gretel, which is called U.F.O. If you want to check out more episodes of the Danville Discussion, then log on to anchor.fm/Caleb-Dirksen, and it'll take you directly to the Danville Discussion website on Spotify for creators. Yeah, I can't call it Spotify for podcasters anymore because I just found out that it got rebranded as Spotify for creators. Anyways, so the first thing that I have to discuss is the initial air date of this episode. And U.F.O originally premiered on Disney Channel on Saturday, October 8th, 2022, the same day as the Chibiverse episode, The Great Chibi Mix-Up. And now let's get into our discussion about U.F.O. So, Part 1 of U.F.O was written by Valerie Bryman, storyboarded by Eugen Buchheim, Heather Gregerson, Eric Kling, Alan Delmar Oka, and Eddie Pittman, and directed by Amber Tornquist-Hollinger, while Part 2 was written by Joshua Pruitt, storyboarded by Rufino Roy Camacho II, Eric Kling, and Tammy Manis, and directed by Trisha Garcia. Now, our first part finds the Grant Gomez family on a vacation in Las Vegas, as Dave and Carolina allow Kevin and Gretel to enjoy themselves on their own while they go to an adult-only pool, but only as long as it's legal and under $40, and then Gretel tells Kevin about her plans to visit events and memorabilia revolving around herself and Hamster, including a special wax exhibit of them at Jack's Wax Shack, and an unlicensed musical revolving around a discount Hamster and Gretel named Hamster and Gretel, which Kevin and Gretel go to, while Hamster has plans of his own at the Go Fish Casino. However, although everyone loves the Hamster and Gretel musical, Kevin is disappointed when the actors fail to acknowledge his existence, and the musical depicts Gretel as an only child in song.
Yes, I'm an only child. I'm an only child. She's an only child. I don't have any siblings. I can't stress this enough. It's a single-child household, just like 22% of families. It's really not that unusual. Oh, she's an only. My parents were like, one and done. I'm an only child.
Afterwards, they find the Wax Museum, and as Kevin laments not being chosen to receive superpowers, a strangely dressed guy named Wacko Wally offers him an opportunity to meet the aliens that gave Hamster and Gretel their powers. Gretel is at first reluctant to join him, wanting to go into Jack's Wax Shack instead, but changes her mind when she realizes that Kevin feels left out because of not getting her superpowers. Unfortunately, Kevin's excitement turns into disappointment once again when Wacko takes them to a gift shop owned by his family. Meanwhile, Dave and Carolina decide to visit a water slide, but are denied access due to not having any kids with them, and at the casino where Hamster is, he's seen playing Go Fish. When Wally returns them to the Wax Museum, the alien spacecraft appears and begins attacking the city. Gretel attempts to save the city from the alien spacecraft, only to get abducted. Kevin then chases the spacecraft down, but fails to rescue Gretel, although he does manage to snap a picture of a message they left behind in a field. Hamster then arrives to learn the terrible news, and that's the end of Part 1. Okay, so for our next act of this episode, U.F.O Part 2, it picks up where the previous part left off, where Dave and Carolina come up with a plan to get to the water slide, and Kevin and Hamster attempt to decipher the message the aliens left behind, J3 Hound plus Sit. Fred tracks the message down to a dog obedience school, where the employee shows them that the message actually spells fist puncher, and they were looking at it upside down. On the ship, Fist Puncher and the Destructress reveal that they stole the ship from Area 51, trapped Gretel in a glass chamber with a rock that drains her superpowers, and that they will use the ship to destroy the Las Vegas Dam. However, Gretel manages to incapacitate them by acting like an annoying younger sibling, all explained in the song The Power to Annoy.
I'm a lemur and I love it and I'm standing on my toes. I'm a lemur and I love it and I'm standing on my toes. Stop! Stop! Stop it! Stop it! Stop repeating! Stop repeating! I'm an idiot! You're an idiot! Hey, that's cheating!
Meanwhile, Kevin and Hamster prepare to rescue Gretel using Kevin's armor suit as armor suit guy, only to be stopped by an impenetrable glass door. When Kevin asked why Fist Puncher and the Destructors would use their powers for evil, they explained that the same aliens that gave Hamster and Gretel power too and told them to use their power told them to do that, much to the shock of the others. Hamster manages to break through it and battles Fist Puncher and the Destructress while Kevin attempts to save Gretel from falling off the spaceship. He succeeds, only to mistakenly crack the Las Vegas dam, causing it to burst and break apart. Once Gretel's powers are restored, Hamster, after defeating Fist Puncher and the Destructress with aid from a decoy of himself, joins her in preventing the reservoir from flooding the city by using the water slide to redirect the water back towards the dam and throwing a large rock in the crack in the dam. The three then join Dave and Carolina, who failed to get into the water slide due to being closed for cleaning and because Hamster took it earlier to stop the flooding, for dinner, while Kevin and Gretel then question the aliens' motives with the knowledge that Fist Puncher and the Destructress were told to use their powers specifically for evil. The episode ends with the aliens observing Hamster and Gretel as they note that their plan is coming together flawlessly. Alright, so now that we've covered the whole plot of this episode, we're gonna take a break, and when we come back, I'm gonna break down my analysis of U.F.O, including the references, handy tools, and what I liked and whatnot. So stay tuned for that.
We've got this.
We'll be right back with Hamster and Gretel on Disney Channel.
Whatever.
Hit it, DJ!
Watch out for a show that really packs a punch. It's got thwack, ow, extra biff, and tons of splat.
Okay, I'll admit, I thought this was gonna be more exciting. Air horse sound!
Well, now it comes with double the oof,
Yes!
triple the bam, and all the kapow. Hamster and Gretel, new episode Saturday at 9:30 on Disney Channel.
This show is so unrealistic.
This episode of the Danville Discussion is sponsored by patreon.com/Caleb Dirksen and the incredible supporters over there, who each month get tons of rewards, such as 2-day early access to new episodes of this very podcast, as well as 1-week early access to new chapters of ongoing fanfiction, 2-day early access to new YouTube videos, including Caleb reviews, plus our exclusive bi-weekly newsfeed, commission requests, and many more. As well as access to an hour-long monthly Discord chat for $50 a month or higher patrons with a Discord account. So we invite you to join the family today to get even more benefits throughout every month. Head to patreon.com/Caleb Dirksen. That's patreon.com/CALEB, that's Caleb, DOERKSEN, that's Dirksen. Patreon.com/Caleb Dirksen. Link is in the description of this episode.
We've got this.
We're back with Hamster and Gretel on Disney Channel.
Whatever.
And we are back. Now let's go over the references I spotted in this episode. Obviously, the title is a pun on the acronym U.F.O, which is short for Unidentified Flying Object, and that is a term commonly referring to extraterrestrial spaceships. Also, the music played at the beginning of Part 1 sounds very similar to the Elvis Presley song Viva Las Vegas. Now, of course, if you're familiar with music, you may know that Elvis Presley was a legend in rock, known as the king of rock and roll. Even I am familiar with his songs, including Hound Dog, Blue Suede Shoes, Heartbreak Hotel, Suspicious Minds, Burning Love, and of course, Viva Las Vegas. And some of those songs were even featured in the Disney animated film Lilo and Stitch, as a result of Chris Sanders' explanation that the idea that Lilo likes Elvis's music came from the fact that they just wanted to make her very unique initially, and they thought that maybe she found her mother's records, and among them were some Elvis albums. And so Disney was able to get the licensing rights to use those songs in the movie. Next, during the song She's an Only Child, the actor playing Greta, who is the musical's discount version of superhero Gretel, wearing silver gloves and a tiara with pink ostrich feathers, she's seen sliding down a staircase that has a family pictured on it, and that's a reference to the classic TV sitcom The Brady Bunch, with that photo of the Brady family posing on the staircase of their house. And with the Brady Bunch, I remember that show and enjoyed watching some episodes back in the day when it was airing reruns for a short time on CTS in Canada. And then there's the character of Wacko Wally, who both is a parody of and is voiced by American singer, songwriter, and actor Weird Al Yankovic with his over-the-top wacky personality. Additionally, this is the third time that Weird Al has voiced a character in any of Dan Povenmire's projects, following Milo Murphy in Milo Murphy's Law and the Shirt Cannon guy in Phineas and Ferb the movie Candace Against the Universe. And speaking of which, I spotted a photo of Mitch, aka Big Mitch from Phineas and Ferb, behind Gretel while she is seated in Wacko Wally's bus, especially since I came out of watching the first two Chronicles of Meep episodes, which were both some good episodes by the way, to be ready for Meep Me in St. Louis as part of my preparation for the revival of Phineas, since now that's going to be an actual episode of Season 5. Also on the bus, I found some references to the TV show The X-Files with the Y-Files. And here's another obvious reference I caught. The weird rock that Fist Puncher and the Destructress found and used to drain all of Gretel's powers is similar to kryptonite from the DC comics, which is a poisonous material to which Superman is vulnerable to the point that it weakens his powers. Other superhero projects I've seen that have something similar include Megamind, and I'm of course talking about the good Megamind, not its horrendous sequel or TV show, in which Megamind learns that Metro Man is vulnerable to copper. And finally, Hamster suits up Kevin with the armor suit to transform him into Armor Suit Guy, which is similar to Tony Stark's armor suit-ups to become Iron Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe back when it was in its prime. Even that piece of rock music during that scene is reminiscent of the AC/DC song Thunderstruck, which was ironically used in Iron Man 2.
Kevin, you can do this. Now get up there and bring our Gretel beans back.
Armor Suit Guy returns!
And now for some handy tools out of my big toolbox of U.F.O supplies. Gretel, Hamster, and Kevin learned that Fist Puncher and the Destructress got their powers from the same aliens that gave Hamster and Gretel theirs, and were told to use their powers for evil instead, which, knowing that the aliens gave a bouncy castle evil powers a few episodes ago, as well as giving La Cebolla her powers back in episode 4B, that might raise this theory right here. Are the aliens in Hamster and Gretel actually evil? That's a theory that has yet to be solved, because I watched all of Season 1 in preparation for Season 2, and I still haven't started watching Season 2 yet, and that season is gonna be ending pretty soon too. Kevin's armor suit from Cutie and the Beast makes his second appearance, and there is an error I found. The actual UFO that is owned and being piloted by the aliens at the end of the episode is shown with the same design as the UFO that Fist Puncher and the Destructress found and took control of, and while the aliens' actual UFO has been shown with a green glowing tractor beam hole on occasion, it had never been shown with 8 circular lights surrounding it before or since. There's also a caption error I discovered when I watched the episode on Disney+. As Hamster is repeatedly punching the alien door, Gretel says alien door punch, but the caption said alien door power instead. Now let's talk about my thoughts on the episode. Now, one of the best things about this episode, I think Gretel and Kevin's sibling relationship is at its best in here, for not only how Gretel realizes Kevin feels left out for the fact that he never received any powers, but also how Kevin is more accepting of the fact that he doesn't have powers, probably since they're more confused on the alien situation, because they know that Fist Puncher and the Destructress got their powers from the aliens as well, yet were told to use their powers for evil, as if the aliens are playing some mysterious game where they play a trick on the good guy guys and turn anyone else they choose into the bad guys, which would be hilarious to me if that were the case. Like, this episode really goes forward with what they want to tell with its ongoing story arc, wherever it's gonna go. There's also the side plot of the Grant Gomez parents trying to sneak into the family pool and get to the water slide while the kids aren't with them, which is a hilarious bait and switch reversal of the common trend where kids try to sneak into an adult-only area, such as an R-rated movie.
I remember this one time I tried to sneak into an R-rated movie.
In this case, it's the parents trying to get into an area that they're only allowed to go into when they have their kids with them. Another thing that's hilarious is how Hamster enters and wins the Go Fish Casino tournament at the start of the episode, accompanied by the song Tiny White Touch, which is a nice banger.
Your self-esteem's gonna self-destruct, 'cause here comes trouble in a tiny white touch.
Speaking of the songs, I also enjoyed She's an Only Child, yet felt bad for Kevin since the song depicts Greta as a sole child in the stage musical, and I think the best song in the episode has to be The Power to Annoy. I love how Gretel foreshadows it by initially coming up with the part of the song in which she goes, "I'm a lemur and I love it and I'm standing on my toes," while on the bus, and later uses that song as a tactic to drive Fistpuncher and the Destructress crazy and talk back to them while trapped in the stolen U.F.O. with all her powers drained. As for the jokes, I pretty much enjoyed all of them, like the Viva the Vegas joke at the beginning, in which Kevin is confused and Carolina clarifies that las means the, and then it's like, don't tell me how to speak Spanish and English, since this is a reference to the phrase Viva Las Vegas. There's also the joke when Wacko Wally introduces himself and explains that Wacko is his actual first name given to him by his parents as part of the Wally family, while his brother's name is Even Weirder, like he's literally named Even Weirder Wally, which is spelled like Evan, but it's pronounced Even.
If you don't want people to think you're a nut, maybe you shouldn't call yourself Wacko Wally.
Well, Mr. Smarty Shirt, it just so happens that Wacko is my real first name. Given to me by my parents, Mr. and Mrs. Wally. It could be worse, though. My brother's name is Even Weirder.
What's your brother's name?
I just said, Even Weirder. It's spelled like Evan, but pronounced Even. Even Weirder Wally.
Speaking of Wacko Wally, I really loved his character, and I especially loved Weird Al Yankovic's performance as him, especially coming off of Milo Murphy's Law and Candace Against the Universe. Weird Al really captures Wacko's absurd, goofy, over-the-top personality just like he did with Milo. It just goes to show how Weird Al is one of my favorite celebrities on screen and in music/comedy. Next, there's actually an adult joke in this episode, like one that only adults like me will get that might go over kids' heads, and that is when Gretel shouts out damn, and Kevin asks her to watch her language, but Gretel clarifies that they're about to hit the dam because the joke is that the actual word she said is spelled D-A-M, as in a barrier to obstruct the flow of water, not like the actual profanity. Still though, it is one of my highlights of the episode.
Damn!
Gretel, language!
No, we're gonna hit the dam!
Other moments I enjoyed were that callback to Empower Failure, when Gretel repeatedly asks, "Can you fix it? Can you fix it?" And Kevin realizes that he can fix the U.F.O. just like the minivan. And another one of my favorites, I thought Kevin's reaction to Hamster telling him to become Armor Suit Guy once again was just adorable.
You were right, Fred, there it is!
Okay, suit up, Armor Suit Guy.
Really?
Like, the way Kevin said, "Really?" in an excited, squeaky voice right there, I just couldn't help but find it cute and one of Michael Cimino's best voice acting moments as him. But I don't think anything in this episode could top that joke at the end with the aliens talking about how that weird rock was set up.
And what was with that weird rock?
That weird rock was a nice touch.
Thank you. I found it in a catalog.
Excellent. It's all coming together. Why are we laughing?
I don't know.
I'm now going to talk a bit about the animation, in which for this episode, the animation was once again done by Snipple Animation Studios and Synergy Animation. Once again, it does have some decent animation, and the backgrounds, action scenes, and even the lighting effects were solid, although a few criticisms of mine include some thick line art at times, like when it zooms in through the U.F.O window onto Kevin in the cockpit. And at one point when Kevin is at the pet obedience school, the movements can be choppy. But this episode overall, I really loved it, and I'd say that it's up there in not only the top 5, but also the top 3 of the best Hamster and Gretel episodes that I've watched so far, even as I'm a third of the way through reviewing the first season. If you're a fan of the show, or if you want a good episode to watch from it, even if you were turned off at first, or don't necessarily watch the show, this is an episode that I highly recommend you check out, because it really does go to show how much Hamster and Gretel has improved since the first episode, with better pacing, improved animation, and much less rush production. This episode is definitely worth your time as well as mine. And now, to end this review off, we will go to our roller coaster rating. Since this is a double-length or two-part episode, I'm just going to give my overall rating. I'm going to give U.F.O 9.5 Wacko Wally roller coasters out of 10. This episode is so far the best that Hamster and Gretel has been in terms of me reviewing it. The plot is very engaging, the sibling relationship of Gretel and Kevin is at its best, and the humor is really good, the songs are fun, and it's just a top-tier Hamster and Gretel episode overall, and I'll be more than happy to watch it again. But hold on, we're not done with this episode yet. We're going to take a break right now, and when we do come back, we're going to talk about some news that has happened with the Phineas and Ferb revival over the past months, because I didn't get to talk about it before, and I'm going to talk about the Hamster and Gretel episodes that are going to be airing in April, as well as a recap of the episodes that have aired in February and March. So stay tuned for that.
Don't go away. We'll be right back with Phineas and Ferb.
From the creator of the Danville Discussion, 2 different kingdoms, 2 clashing armies, one epic battle between good
We never give up.
and evil. Your army will never stop mine. The Battle of the Tri-Kingdom area of Phineas and Ferb fanfiction, new chapters every month on deviantart.com/CalebDirkson20 and patreon.com/CalebDirkson.
We're back with more Phineas and Ferb.
Now before we cap off this episode for the day, I'd like to go over some Danville Discussion news updates. Over the last bit of months, we've gotten some more news on the Phineas and Ferb revival and when it's going to be coming out. So I'm going to start with what happened at New York Comic Con on October 17th, 2024. Now, I've got my source right here from the Walt Disney Company Press, where it talks about how Disney branded television announced a voice cast for the highly anticipated new season of Phineas and Ferb premiering in 2025 on Disney Channel and Disney Plus, and how for the first time in over a decade, Dan Povenmire and Jeff Swampy Marsh, the co-creators who are also returning as executive producers, would reunite with the rest of the cast at this particular NYCC panel, which also included exclusive sneak peeks of the new season, including a new poster and a finalized look at the opening song for the first episode of Season 5, in which the song is officially titled either The Song of the Summer or Summer is Starting Right Now, and I'll talk more about those later. Anyways, it continues. Known for its history of celebrity cameos from fans of the show, the new season will feature new guest appearances from notable actors, musicians, and athletes, among others. and those people are going to be joining the original cast, in which many of the original cast members have been confirmed to be returning, including Vincent Martella as Phineas Flynn, Ashley Tisdale as Candace Flynn, Caroline Ray as Linda Flynn Fletcher, Dee Bradley Baker as Perry the Platypus, Allison Stoner as Isabella Garcia Shapiro, and Dan Povenmire and Jeff Swampy Marsh themselves as Dr. Heinz Doofenshmirtz and Major Francis Monogram respectively, and they also confirmed that David Arrigo Jr., who has been the current voice of Ferb Fletcher since 2018 with the Milo Murphy's Law episode The Phineas and Ferb Effect, and Phineas and Ferb the movie Candace Against the Universe, will be reprising his role again for this revival. The new season of Phineas and Ferb will follow the inventive stepbrothers as they tackle another 104 days of summer. And that, of course, is going to take place a year after the original summer. Candace is more determined than ever to finally bust her little brothers, while their pet platypus, Perry, continues to lead a double life as the suave Agent P, whose sole mission is to thwart Dr. Doofenshmirtz from taking over the tri-state area, since Doof is going to be returning to evil after spending most of the events after the show's original conclusion trying to be good, including the Alka Files and his Professor Time character arc in Milo Murphy's Law. So that's pretty much all there is to report from this article, and I'm now going to give my perspective on this panel, to which I'm going to say all this news has already gotten me more hyped to see what this new season is going to be. The fact that many of the main cast from before is going to be returning, because I don't think there'd be anyone better to voice all these characters. Like, I've become so used to hearing Vincent Martella as Phineas, Ashley Tisdale as Candace, Dee Bradley Baker as Perry, Allison Stoner as Isabella, and even Dan and Swampy as Dr. Doofenshmirtz and Major Monogram, to the point that I consider all of those voices irreplaceable. Although with Ferb, I will say that David Arrigo Jr. is a worthy successor to Thomas Brody Sangster, since I know he's really enjoyed Phineas and Ferb for such a long time, and I can tell that he's had a very good time pulling off that witty English accent that Thomas Sangster originally delivered, even as an American voice actor, kinda like a reverse Tom Holland. The fact they're also bringing on board more celebrity guests for this season is also an added bonus. As for how Candace and Doof are going to be presented, I kinda get why they want to return those characters to their roots, not only to introduce Phineas and Ferb to another generation of kids and their families, but also there is the factor of what might have happened between the events of Milo Murphy's Law and this new revival. Because when it comes to Dr. Doofenshmirtz, he did have a character arc of trying to become good after Phineas and Ferb originally ended. They tried experimenting with that in the episode Doof 101 near the end of Season 4, in which they tried to make a backdoor pilot for a spin-off about Doof becoming a high school science teacher, and while it was a decently enjoyable episode, it didn't end up working out. Then they tried experimenting with Doof as a full-time secret agent with the Alka Files special after the show had ended, and honestly, that was a pretty big disappointment right there, and I can see why that too didn't end up becoming its own show. It could have been a really fun special, but what held it back for me was that I felt like Doof talked way too much in there, to the point that he got annoying, and it's a shame because, like a lot of other people, I actually really love the character through and through, and he's not only the sole human in the Alka team that they presented, but he's also the only one who can speak full English while the animal agents only make noises. I get that it's the point of Team OWCA in that episode, but Doof really wasn't that handled well with that episode in my opinion. And then you've got Milo Murphy's Law since the events of Fungus Among Us and the Phineas and Ferb Effect, where Dr. Doofenshmirtz became a supporting character alongside Perry and Monogram. Like, you can have whatever opinion you want on that. Some of you may not mind having Doof in Milo Murphy's Law, and some of you may be against that move, thinking that the show died because of it and it can no longer be its own thing. But even to this day, I still legitimately think that it was the best way to handle the story of Doof becoming good out of all of them. Like, Phineas and Ferb's Last Day of Summer was a fresh start for Dr. D becoming a good guy at the end of the original run, and his redemption arc was especially solid in this show as he's believed to be Professor Time by Cavendish and Dakota, and he tries to pursue his future as the famed time traveler, even while he and Perry broke up for a while at one point. I will admit that it does kind of make Milo more of a spin-off than its own thing, and there are a few other flaws too, but I thought it was good character development for Doofenshmirtz, though sadly we never got to see his redemption arc being fully finished with his former home at Doofenshmirtz Evil Incorporated being rebuilt, as Milo never got a third season after that. However, in the chronological timeline of Phineas and Ferb, I've got a feeling that at some point between the end of Milo Murphy's Law and the beginning of the Phineas and Ferb revival, such as some of the holiday specials like Phineas and Ferb Christmas Vacation, Doof must have returned to his evil ways right before Christmas, so maybe the new seasons can try and elaborate on that since they're taking place in an entirely new summer. So with all that in mind, it would kind of make sense for Dr. Doofenshmirtz to return to evil. At least it's not going to be another somehow Palpatine return situation. As for Candace, there might have been some times after the original summer when she would try to bust Phineas and Ferb, such as in Happy New Year, so considering how many people tend to break some of their New Year's resolutions, it all makes sense. And then there's the reveal of the teaser poster for Season 5, and there have been 2 versions released. One with the logo above the tags, and one with the logo and the tags on 2 separate sides. And with the second one, you get to see more of the other characters in the audience. The artwork is Phineas, Ferb, Isabella, Buford, and Baljeet getting ready to perform on stage for everyone in Danville. And the only difference I see is that they added an extra stripe to Phineas's shirt, since all the characters are aging up by 1 year. In the upper left corner, you've got Candace trying to bust the brothers. In the balconies above the seats, you've got Dr. Doofenshmirtz and Perry the Platypus one-upping each other. And in the seats, you pretty much have all the other recognizable characters, including the T-Rex, super big doctor from Candace Against the Universe, the farmer and his wife, the lake-nosed monster, the giant floating baby head, Ducky Momo, Balloony, Professor Poofenplots, Amanda Johnson, the Fireside Girls, Reginald and Winifred Fletcher, Betty Joe and Clyde Flynn, Major Monogram and Carl, Vanessa Doofenshmirtz, Monty Monogram, Vivian Garcia Shapiro, Dr. Hirano, a Finadroid and a Furbot, Irving and Albert Dubois, Peter the Panda, Dr. Hivarwick, Love Handle, the Bettys, Meep, Marty the Rabbit Boy and his musical blender, the Mummy, the Talking Zebra, Klimpaloon, Dr. Feelbetter, Stacy Hirano, Coltrane, Jeremy Johnson, Thaddeus, Thor and Mandy, Charlene Doofenshmirtz, Norm the Robot, Mitch, Stanky Dog, and Beppo, Jenny, and Django Brown. But surprisingly, there are a couple additions to the cast, both of which are from Milo Murphy's Law. These include Milo Murphy himself, since his bad luck is causing his seat to literally spiral out of control, and Nobody Cares Jim. And honestly, as a fan of Milo Murphy's Law, there's only one better way that I can respond with this. Holy Toledo! I was not expecting that the Milo Murphy's Law characters would be teased to appear in this upcoming revival, but here we are. And already, this sounds like a big win for fans of both Phineas and Ferb and Milo Murphy's Law. After more than 5 years since Milo Murphy's Law ended, they're very likely going to be coming back in this new season of Phineas and Ferb. And right now, I'm more than eager to see characters like Milo, Zach, Melissa, Diochi, and more show up for some occasional appearances or cameos for this revival. Already, thank you Dan and Swampy for taking my hype for this grand return of Phineas and Ferb and kicking it up another notch. and the tagline makes a reference to one of the earlier episodes of the show, as it reads, "We're getting the band back together." And then it follows up with, "New season coming soon on Disney Channel and Disney Plus." Overall, I think this is a really exciting poster, and so that's the poster, but we also have a reveal of the Song of the Summer, or Summer is Starting Right Now, which is going to be the first song that will be featured in the Season 5 premiere. Of course, the whole song was uploaded to YouTube, albeit with the audio quality that you'd expect from something that was recorded from the panel on camera. But on Twitter, and I'm still calling it that because Elon Musk is a piece of crap, we got a sample of the higher CD quality version of the song, and I'm just going to play a bit of that right now for a little preview. So that's a bit of that song right there. And of course, I listened to the whole thing on YouTube, and it's a pretty good one. It still manages to maintain everything that made the songs in Phineas and Ferb so great, but I wish Doof's line wasn't feeling a little too quick with how he says he's back to his evil ways. And I do hope he addresses it more when monologuing in front of Perry later in the premiere, and just throwing it in the lyrics only to never mention it again would be dumb, since him becoming good at the end of the original Summer was a big turning point. They should really address that at some point. But I'd say this song is just about on par with We're Back from Candace Against the Universe with its upbeat nature and lyrics. Though I couldn't help but notice Dan's voice at the beginning when Phineas says, "Yeah, but we don't have to wait that long." And that's because that recording of Dan's is a temporary placeholder for Vincent Martella's actual dialogue. But yeah, that's our first song from the revival, and that's the New York Comic Con panel altogether. Great panel, great reveals, great everything. But wait, there's more! There's also the D23 Brazil panel back in November, in which Dan Swampy and Vincent Martella teased the new season and talked about the show's popularity with Brazilian audiences, the inspiration behind the show, and all that stuff. But what I want to focus on next is this February 6, 2025 article from Variety, in which they confirmed the scheduled release for the revival. And they say, "The long-awaited Phineas and Ferb return is right around the corner. On Thursday, February 6th, series co-creators Dan Povenmire and Swampy Marsh announced that the new episodes will debut in the summer on Disney Channel and Disney Plus. Since Phineas and Ferb is essentially a celebration of summer vacation, summer is the perfect time to debut the new season," the executive producer said in a statement to Variety. "We have had such a great time diving back into this world, and the entire cast and crew have really brought their A-game. We cannot wait to see fans' reactions to what is shaping up to be our favorite season yet." In 2023, Disney Branded Television announced the revival, consisting of 40 episodes split into 2 seasons. The duo revealed the summer news at SCAD TV Fest on Thursday, during the Disney Branded Television Storytelling from Preschool to Families panel. A.O. Davis, president of Disney Branded Television, added, "Few shows capture pure fun and creativity like Phineas and Ferb. It's a series that generations of kids and families have loved, and it perfectly reflects Disney Branded Television's commitment to joyful storytelling that brings people together. With Dan and Swampy back at the helm, this new season is sure to deliver even more of the excitement and heart that made Phineas and Ferb a beloved favorite." So yeah, Season 5 of Phineas and Ferb is confirmed to be premiering in the summer. And honestly, I have to agree, they couldn't have picked a better time to launch this new season. Because when it comes to releasing Phineas and Ferb content, the franchise has had a long history of releasing some of its media during the summer. There was the show itself, which aired its first episode in the summer of 2007 on August 17th. There was also the Summer Belongs to You special that aired in the summer of 2010. There was the first movie, Across the Second Dimension, which premiered as a Disney Channel original movie in the summer of 2011. There were the Marvel and Star Wars crossovers that aired in the summers of 2013 and 2014 respectively. There was the original finale, Last Day of Summer, which aired in the summer of 2015. And then there was the second movie, Candace Against the Universe, which was released on Disney Plus in the summer of 2020. Also, another reason it makes sense for this season to air in the summer is because of the fact that that's what Phineas and Ferb is all about. The fact that it's a celebration of how you can spend your summer vacation, and the titular stepbrothers think of numerous ideas that could only really be possible in their world. And it's a good thing too, because I'm already still watching everything from the franchise, like the original 4 seasons, the Take-Two shorts, and the movies, as well as Milo Murphy's Law, in order to be ready for this new season. So that's all the news I want to talk about for the Phineas and Ferb revival, and if you too are excited to see what the 5th season of Phineas and Ferb has in store, then just remember that it will be premiering on Disney Channel and Disney Plus this summer. Now, to actually cap things off, I want to go over some Hamster and Gretel episode updates. But I gotta do a recap first. According to my sources from the DGE Press website, last February, Disney Channel surprisingly aired only one episode of Season 2 of Hamster and Gretel on Sunday, February 2nd, which contained the segments Gentlemen Prefer Fronds, in which Nordal cheats in an orchid contest, leading to disastrous results, and Sock It To Me Bailey, in which Gretel and Bailey try to be on trend by wearing the latest headphones, but get caught in a villain's trap. And in March, Disney Channel has begun airing the remaining Season 2 episodes, leading all the way up to the Season 2 finale in April. And I've heard some rumors and statements that Season 2 might be the show's final season. Yes, unfortunately, according to an insider, it looks like Hamster and Gretel is likely to be ending after 2 seasons, with the ending presumably being changed to have a proper conclusion, which hopefully isn't rushed, and that the reason could be because Dan and his crew are currently working on the Phineas and Ferb revival. Which is kinda unfortunate because I would have loved a 3-way crossover between all of Dan's shows for this one as well. I would have loved a team up between Hamster, Gretel, and Phineas as the Beak, honestly, as well as a few appearances of the Milo characters. Although maybe I could be wrong and it'll be in a situation similar to Bear in the Big Blue House, where Hamster and Gretel could get renewed for a 3rd season sometime after Season 2 ends, and the show could go on a hiatus for a while to make more room for Phineas and Ferb. Who knows, but if it is the end for Hamster and Gretel, then I hope for the best for how it all ends. But hey, just like Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, at least it lasted longer and was better treated than Haley's On It. Anyways, the episodes that will have aired in March include, on Sunday, March 16th, No Powers Day, in which Kevin's plan to teach Gretel not to rely on her powers is interrupted when he's taken captive by Hill People, and Everybody Loves Main Computer, in which Main Computer returns and strikes up a friendship with Kevin. On Sunday, March 23rd, Gretel Keeps It Real. When a fishing competition is threatened, Gretel must win it to protect the other contestants. And Squeaky Friday, in which Hamster and Churro switch bodies just as a bodybuilder villain attacks. And on Sunday, March 30th, Grand Slam, in which Kevin and Gretel's grandmas clash at Dave and Carolina's vow renewal while Clem Clam plots revenge. And The Art of Deception, where Hiromi releases truth gas at an art show with her parents in attendance. So now, with those out of the way, for the episodes airing in April, they are going to be airing every Sunday during that month at 10 a.m. Eastern Pacific on Disney Channel. And these are going to be the final Season 2 episodes. On Sunday, April 6th, we have Misdirect. Hiromi creates a fake villain persona to trick Hamster and Gretel into an interview. Trading Faces. A villain captures Hiromi and threatens to expose Hamster and Gretel's identities on the news. And then finally, on Sunday, April 13th, we have the Season 2 finale, and possibly the series finale as a whole. Who's Afraid of Mordros the Annihilator? Mordros arrives and reveals his evil plan to destroy mankind. Gretel is more alone than ever, and she and Hiromi must work together to defeat Mordros. Like I said, if it does end up being the end of the show as a whole, I am hoping it does get the proper conclusion it deserves, unlike Milo Murphy's Law did. Again, if you're interested to see the final episodes of Season 2 of Hamster and Gretel, then keep in mind that these episodes are going to be airing Sundays in April at 10 a.m. Eastern Pacific on Disney Channel. And with that said, that is all that I'm going to be talking about today, so thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Danville Discussion. As for me, you can find me on my Facebook page at Real Caleb Dirksen, on my Tumblr and TikTok pages at Caleb Dirksen2 with the number 2 at the end and all in lowercase, on Instagram at Caleb.Dirksen for my main page, or at Caleb Flynn Fletcher for my alternate page, on Threads at Caleb.Dirksen, on DeviantArt at CalebDirksen20, and on Blue Sky at CalebDirksen2.bsky.social. You can also find me on my new Discord page because my old Discord account was hacked by entering the new username Caleb Reviews, all in one word and all in lowercase. And if you go to the invite link in the description below, it'll also invite you to my new and improved Discord server so that you can talk with me about anything, including this podcast or my other content. You can also find me on YouTube, just search for Caleb Dirksen and look for the icon of me as a soldier. And if you want to give the most support for this podcast and get some great rewards, such as getting access to new episodes 1 to 2 days early, then please consider joining me at patreon.com/Caleb Dirksen. Special thanks to everyone who has followed or supported me on Patreon, including Kalila Shaw, Hugh Friend, Brock Clifton Friend, Nathan Smithtrovich, and my free patrons Gilbert Gann, Alec the Videomaker, Juan Almendarez, Ronnie Whitfield, and Matheson Mullen. It really means a lot to me. As for this podcast, we are available to listen on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible, Good Pods, YouTube Music, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and you can also find us on Spotify for Creators by using your Apple or Android device or going on the web at anchor.fm/Caleb-Dirksen, and it'll take you directly to the Danville Discussion page on Spotify for Creators. If you liked what you've been listening to and you'd like to help us get discovered, then please hit that subscribe button on the podcast page. Please rate and review this show with 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and please tell your friends about it. That would be so great. And if you were watching this on YouTube or listening to this on YouTube Music, then tap that like button and leave us a little comment with your thoughts on this episode of Hamster and Gretel. You can also share your feedback or ask some questions by sending us an email at danvillediscussion@gmail.com with either the Danville Discussion or the episode topic in the subject line. Join us next time, and I'm going to do a special episode about the 7th Chibiverse episode, The Roast of Dr. Doofenshmirtz. Tune in next time for the newest episode of the Danville Discussion with all things related to Phineas and Ferb and beyond. And with that said, thank you guys once again for listening, and until next time, this is Caleb, over and out. This podcast was created strictly and only for entertainment and information purposes. It is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company, Disney Television Animation, or their affiliates. All and any names, images, clips, sounds, or other items related to Phineas and Ferb, Milo Murphy's Law, Hamster and Gretel, and other Disney properties are trademarks and or copyrights of their respective holders. All original content from this podcast is the intellectual property of the Danville Discussion and the host or hosts running the podcast unless otherwise noted.